Hey community, this is Dr. Hugh, and today what I'm going to be talking about is blood sugar and how blood sugar can damage your mitochondria, and we call that dysglycemia. Clinically, I've seen this over and over and over and over. So if you're suffering out there with any kind of chronic illness, chronic disease, whether you've been damaged by antibiotics, whether you have fibromyalgia, whether you have brain fog, brain fatigue, irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, autoimmune disease, thyroid condition, you probably have some degree of sugar dysregulation. And the fancy word of that is just saying dysglycemia. So I'm going to get into this because when you have sugar dysregulation, dysglycemia, it damages your mitochondria. That's the most extensive thing, or the worst damage that's going to happen is it's actually going to damage your mitochondria. So what I've seen clinically here, I've been doing this now for 27 years. So I've been doing this a long time. So here we have a nice healthy mitochondria. So right here, this is what you want to see. You want to see your blood sugar between 85 and 120 with or without food. So let me just say that again. Your blood sugar should be between 85 and 120 with or without food. That's going to provide your mitochondria with a very consistent fuel supply. And of course, that fuel supply makes the ATP that you need to produce energy and to heal. So here we have too low of blood sugar right in here. In my opinion, it's anything between 84 and less than that. And then we have when it's actually too high in here. And you can see right in the middle here, we have a nice, healthy, robust mitochondria. And then we have sugar dysregulation. You can see what's happening to that mitochondria. They are just not functioning optimally. And if you do not have optimally functioning mitochondria, you cannot produce energy. Not only can you not produce energy, you cannot produce intercommunication with the cells. So the mitochondria, they do lots and lots of things within your body. So in here, we have this saying right in here is when you have stable blood sugar equals better energy. So that's really critical. Now, in clinical practice, after helping thousands of people, I've come up with basically what I call the low-hanging fruit in getting well. Now, here's the thing. If you do not handle the low-hanging fruit, these three things, there's other things that I consider the low-hanging fruit, but this, what I've come up with, these are the three most important ones. And if these are not in place, if you don't have these in the optimal sweet spot, you will not get better. You can spend $30,000 on stem cell. You can spend $50,000 on stem cell. You can get PRP injections. You can take the fanciest supplements. But if you have the low-hanging fruit that's not being addressed, you will not get well. Now, I'm going to be handling one of the low-hanging fruit, and that is what we call the sugar instability right in here. This is the low-hanging fruit that we're going to be talking about here today. So what we want is we want stable blood sugars. We want healthy oxygen delivery, so you don't want to have any anemia in here. That can cause fatigue. And then you don't want to have suboptimal low blood pressure. So what do I mean by suboptimal low blood pressure? That would be someone that has blood pressure of, let's say, 105 or 65. That's way too low because you need that pressure to push blood into the tissues for you to get well. So the low-hanging fruit, these are the three things that you do not want to miss. And we're going to be handling the blood sugar stability. So I love this visual. This is a great visual. So this is the glucose sweet spot. So where do we want this? We want this to be 85 to 120, and this is for the best energy and the best mitochondrial function. These are great graphics. So what we're really trying to do is we're creating stability in the glucose supply to the mitochondria, because it's the glucose that actually ends up making the ATP and producing energy. So in here we have, this is the nice sweet spot we want in here. And when this happens, guess what? We have nice, healthy, robust mitochondria, strong ATP, high energy, low oxidative stress, low damage. You're going to have steady energy, better focus, and smoother supply throughout the whole entire day. So consistent blood flow, consistent sugar to the mitochondria is absolutely critical. And if you have any chronic illness, I almost guarantee with 100% certainty, you're going to have a degree of what I call dysglycemia. What I want to show you right here is this is one of my clients, and she just started recently. And she is very damaged, like damaged by the medical system, by antibiotics, extreme pain, muscle atrophy, every thing in the book you can actually, like she has, like she is very messed up. So one of the things, as we talked about, is she's just not eating enough, right? She's not eating enough, and she was in a chronic state of hypoglycemia. So if we look in here, we talk about this, and she's talking about how she's eating better, and guess what's happening? She is actually sleeping through the night. I've been sleeping through the night much better, even when we were sleeping away at a friend's family house. So she started, the only thing she started doing is eating more, normalizing the glucose, normalizing the supply to the mitochondria, and she's getting better. She was sleeping in someone else's bed, and boom, what do we know? She is better. I said, this is a huge win. You were certainly 100% certainly in a hypoglycemic condition. So what I found here is when people have chronic illness, they just don't eat enough. They don't eat enough protein, and they're in a state of chronic hypoglycemia or dysglycemia. Now, this has been a game changer right here. This is called the Lingo, right? So this is the Lingo. This is a continuous glucose monitor, and this has changed the game. And what I mean by that is a year ago, these monitors were $500 a month. You can get this direct. You don't have to have doctor's notice. You can go and just buy it. It's direct to consumer now. And a year ago, they were $500 a month. This has revolutionized the game to finding out if you have dysglycemia, if you have hypoglycemia, or if you have hyper. You can have hypo and hyper. And in fact, a lot of the clients that I work with, they have a mixed pattern. They have hypo and hyper. And this is very bad for mitochondria. We want consistent sugar glucose to be between 85 and 120. And that puts the least amount of stress on your mitochondria. The least amount of stress in your mitochondria. If you have any kind of chronic illness, your mitochondria are stressed out, and they don't need any more stress on those little guys in your body. So this is the game changer. This is the Lingo, and they have basically what I would call like these maintenance plans right here. So for a 4-week subscription, for 4 weeks, it's $89. $89 for 4 weeks. And this is for a 3-month subscription, which is $249. It's not auto-renewed. You have to actually go and renew it. So for $89, you can check this for a month. And I guarantee you, within 1 month, you're going to know how bad your dysglycemia is. And in fact, the next slide I'm going to show you is of a client. And within a 1-month data set, they have about 7,000 data points. This is how often this continuous glucose monitor checks your sugar. It's very simple. You just put this little thing right on your shoulder right here. You just push it in there, and it goes to your phone, Bluetooth to your phone, and you monitor your blood sugars. This has been an absolute game changer for my clients since it's come onto the market at such an affordable rate. I mean, $89 for 4 weeks. And then $249 if you want to do the 3 months. I think the 3 months is actually the best way to go. And this is why you can catch the pattern. You can catch if you have a dysglycemia pattern. And then on top of that, if you do the 3-month program, then you have enough time to see what foods and what you're eating and not eating and how often you're eating that's going to spike these sugar levels. Okay, so this is one of my clients right here. So this is her glucose levels right here. I'm going to kind of go over this here so you understand this. I know it's kind of confusing, but stay with me, because if you understand this graph right here, you're going to understand what the heck is happening. Okay, this is what I want to show you right here. So this is the actual data. This is what you're looking at right here. This is the actual Excel spreadsheet that she emailed me. Then I put these numbers in chat, and it came up with these amazing graphs. So what I want to show you right here is this is on May 6th, right? May 6th of 2026. And you can see right here, we have number 2. Now I'm just going to scroll down here, and you can see how many data sets we have. We're at 3,500 right here. Scroll down, we're at 4,600. Scroll down. And basically a month later here, where are we sitting at? We're sitting at April 12th. So April 12th. So you can see in like a month, we have over 6,000 data sets. So this is a massive amounts of information. This is going to catch patterns that you can't catch otherwise. And this is going to be a critical part in you getting better and recovering. Okay, so let me go over this graph right here. So this is the actual data I showed you. So we have basically 6,800 data points, and I plotted this out. The green right here, the green is where we want the blood sugar. This is between 85 and 120. So that's what we want to see, between 85 and 120. This is the most optimal range. Now you can see all these other spikes up in here. This is above the 120, and this is below the 120. So what do we see here? If you just look at the graph, what do we see? We're seeing lots of hypo and hyperglycemia. This is a problem when it comes to mitochondria. So at the end of the day, what are these stats? 54% of the time, she's in the ideal range. 54%. That's it. 54%. 24% of the time, she's below 85. And, 25% she's below 85. And then 20% she's above 120. Her lowest level right here was 55. And then her highest level was 199. So when we look at this graph, out of the 6,800 data points, roughly 45% of the time, she's out of the ideal range, is between 85 and 120. So what does this mean to mitochondria? It means the mitochondria are under stress. They're damaged. They're not functioning. They have oxidative damage. This is not conducive to someone that has a chronic illness. Whatever illness it is you have, your body is not going to function optimally if you do not produce good ATP. So this is a massive discovery that we found. Here's just another graph that I took all the data lines and I just put it in there just to give you enough visual right here. So right here, this is all the normal. This is 85 to 120. This is the sweet spot. And then you can see all these different markers up in here, right? This is all high and this is all low. So this is not a very ideal situation when it comes to recovering and getting better. I love visual pictures here. So this next graph is just a little cleaner. It makes it a little simpler so that you can see. So the ideal range is 85 to 120. We have that right here. And then you can see in this spot right here, this is the ideal. So she's at 54%. Below, she's sitting at basically 24% below right here, and then she's sitting at 20% above. So like I was saying, roughly 45% of her daily expenditure, her calories or glucose levels, is outside of the optimal range. And when you're trying to get better, you got to put everything in your favor. So in here, I did some research, and if you want to see this research right here, you can just grab this link. This will be on my website. So this is all research. What I want to show you is I did some research on hypoglycemia. And it says this: research indicates that hypoglycemia, critically low blood sugar, okay, so I'm just saying anything below 85, acts as a profound metabolic stressor that directly impairs mitochondria. Check out the word that they use. They use profound stress on the mitochondria. Impairs mitochondrial function and disrupts the cellular energy supply, particularly with the brain. The impact is characterized by a bioenginetic failure, where the lack of fuel triggers structural damage to the mitochondria and shifts the metabolic pathways. So we need to make sure that your mitochondria is getting the consistent blood flow, right? Good oxygen, and sugar flow, glucose levels. Okay, so here's what it says about hyperglycemia here. It says hyperglycemia acts as a double-edged sword for cellular metabolism. While glucose is technically the primary fuel for the body, an oversupply of cascade of mitochondrial dysfunction is paradoxically leads to energy crisis. But does paradoxically mean? Like if you have more blood sugar, you should have more energy, but that's not how it works. There's an ideal sweet spot, right? So paradoxically leads to an energy crisis. Research published as recently as 2016 highlights the sustained hyperglycemia reshapes metabolic network, leading to structural fragments and impaired ATP synthesis across multiple organs. So if you have high sugar levels, this is going to affect every organ in your entire body. Here, I want to handle the hypoglycemia condition so you can see this. So this is hypoglycemia. And you can see these great graphics right down in here. So you're going to see this picture right in here. So that's a hypoglycemic pattern. You can see those little blue specks here. That's the sugar. And then if we move down here, we have the normal, right? The normal glucose levels in here. So when you have hypoglycemia, you can have shaking, you can be weak, you can be anxious, you can have brain fog. And again, you can see this dipping down in here. The ideal range is 85 to 120. Anything below 85, I consider that we need to address it and make sure that we're normalizing your blood sugar levels. This is just another great graphics. People learn by graphics. In here, you can see this would be a normal sugar level. Lots of sugars in there, right? Lots of sugar in there. So it's 79. And in here, you can see that this would be a hypoglycemic condition, not enough sugars in there. So less fuel for cells when this is happening in your body. And then in this condition, we have a hyperglycemic condition in here. So it's above 125. And then you can look at these graphs right here. There's just more sugar there, right? So just more sugar. And again, you can have fatigue, you can have thirsty, blurred vision, brain fog, chronic fatigue, lots of things that can happen if your sugar levels are not within the normal range. And you can see here that this client here, this graph here shows a lot more sugar levels. So no matter where you are, if you have hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, and the fancy word is called dysglycemia, anything out of the 85 to 120 is telling you that your mitochondria is being stressed and you are not going to be healing the way that you actually should. So how does this fuel supply actually work? So in here, we have blood sugar, we have the glucose, right? So the glucose goes into the cell, it goes into the mitochondria, right? And this is where it starts to make the energy, right in this area right here. That's where that glucose goes in the mitochondria to make energy, and it produces ATP. And then we have a great battery. So we want to have consistent fuel supply going into the cell, and we want to have consistent ATP being made. When it's too high or too low, this is the kind of crisis that we get over here. We have low battery energy. Here's another great graphic. So in here, it's showing us that we have low glucose levels. What happens here? Best range, 85 to 120. And then we have high glucose levels. And here, you can see with the high glucose levels, it can cause inefficient ATP output, oxidative stress, low ATP output, and all these things can happen in your body. Here's just another great visual. This is the roller coaster. This would be a mixed pattern. So what you're looking at here is a hypoglycemia and a hyperglycemic pattern, mixed pattern. So one of the things is, one of the big stressors is on your mitochondria is the high or the low sugar levels, and then the high sugar levels. That spike here between the high and the low, that is what really causes a lot of damage within the mitochondria. So in here, you can see that there's a big spike up in here, and then it drops low right in here. And there's just this roller coaster, right? This roller coaster is not well, and this is going to cause low AT production, a lot of oxidative damage, and then you're basically sitting on a roller coaster when it comes to your energy production. And this is just another great picture. I love these pictures. In here, we showed you this picture before right here. Consistent, nice energy flow. 85 to 120, the mitochondria are getting enough glucose so they can make plenty of ATP. So at the end of the day, what do we have? We have the sweet spot, which is between 85 and 120. This is what we want to see. This is real critical for us to see that. So this is the critical spot right here. You can see this is a great picture. Tons of energy, optimal metabolism. Everything is great. And then in here, the low glucose levels here between 80, lower than 85. We have low energy, we have fatigue, and poor function. And up in here, when you have high, it's really a lot of oxidative damage, inflammation, oxidative stress, and poor function. So at the end of the day, you want to have your sugars between 85 and 120. I hope this webinar has brought some value to you and you can really see the impact on this. And clinically, I see this over and over and over, especially since I've been recommending the lingo in the last 4 or 5 months since it's come to market. I'm catching lots of hypoglycemia and lots of hyperglycemia patterns. And this is one of the low-hanging fruits that if this is not addressed, you're not going to get better. I've had people spend $30,000, $40,000 on stem cell, and they come to me because they weren't better. And what do? We check their glucose levels, and what do they have? They have a severe hypoglycemia and a hyperglycemic pattern that no one checked. On top of that, they have anemia. And on top of that, the third thing is they have suboptimal blood pressure. These are all very simple, low-hanging fruits that you can actually do at home and figure this out. So if you enjoy this content, please share, like this video, and give me a thumbs up. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.